Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Werther, and I'm a senior lecturer here at Georgia Southwestern State University, senior lecturer in accounting. This afternoon, I want to talk about Chapter 23, standard costing or standard costs. You'll be responsible for only the pages of 1194 to 1198. I really am only going to put probably 3 questions on the final exam relating to standard cost. And if you look at the problems, the new listing of multiple choice questions that I've put out in GoView, and you study those questions, you should be just fine for the final exam. There's not going to be anything different. There'll probably be 1 or 2 theoretical questions from this bunch and 2 analytical questions from the second page. And that's going to be it for chapter 23. So it's really not much from chapter 23. Like I said before, the brunt of the exam is chapter 21, I would say 60%, chapter 22, maybe 35%, and chapter 23, maybe 5%. Okay, so there's very little in chapter 23. So really all you have to do is go through the questions that I've put out in GoView, and you should be just fine. Now, let me demonstrate. We're going to you have to be able to calculate direct materials and direct labor variances. And the way that I was always taught to do variances is very visual. I make me a little diagram such as this, and I set it up just looking just like this. Okay, AQ is actual quantity, AP is actual price. Okay, SP is standard price, SQ is standard quantity. Now, let me just say this, that standards are actually what we call unit budgets. It's a predetermined amount that you should either spend on materials, for example, how much per board foot or how much per pound should you pay, or it's a predetermined amount that you should spend on wages. How much do you pay per hour for this job, or how much should you pay for this job, and so on. Okay, so you have standard prices, and then you have standard hours and standard amounts. Okay, for example, how much board footage or how many pounds would it take to do this job, or how many hours, standard hours, should it take to do this job? So they're what we call predetermined unit budgets. That's actually what standards are. So let's just take a problem in the book, or not in the book, but in my handout here, on my handout, and let's do one of these. Maybe we'll do 2 of them just to show you how this works. Let's look at number 113, Monster Company. Okay, Monster Company produces a product requiring 3 direct labor hours at $16 per hour, okay? The requiring, okay, that means the standard is 3 hours for one product, and it requires, it's $16 per hour. So for that one product, you're going to spend $48, 3 times $16, on making one product, okay? Now it says during January, 2,000 products were produced using 6,300 direct labor hours, okay? Monster's actual payroll during January was $98,280, okay? So this total amount is $98,280. That's total payroll. Okay? Okay, they want to know what is the labor quantity variance. Okay? This is the price or rate variance. And this is the quantity or efficiency variance. Okay, and you can change actual quantity to actual hours times actual rate, okay, since we're working with labor. And so this would be actual hours times standard rate. And this would be standard hours times standard rate. Okay? So when you're working with labor, it's hours and rate. When you're working with materials, it's quantity and price. Okay? So since we're working with labor, it's actual hours times actual rate. Okay? $98,280 here is the product of the actual hours times the actual rate. Okay, so let's see if we can find the actual hours. Okay, during January, 2,000 products are produced using 6,300 direct labor hours. Okay, so your actual hours are 6,300 direct labor hours. Okay, can we figure out the actual rate? Yes, we can, just from this. Let's take 98,280 and let's divide it by the 6,300, and we come up with $15.60 was our actual labor rate per hour that we paid to get us a payroll of $98,280. Okay, now, since 6,300 are your actual hours, you can bring it over here and put it right in where it says actual hours. And let's see if the problem tells us what our standard rate is. Okay, they produce a product requiring 3 direct labor hours at $16 per hour. Okay, so the standard rate is $16 an hour. So let's key in $16. Okay, and so now that we got the standard rate, we can bring the $16 over and put it right here, standard rate. Okay, now the only thing left to find out are the standard hours. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out the standard hours. Okay, the standard hours are actually the standard amount of hours that we needed to use to produce the actual output. Okay, so let's look at what the actual output was. Okay, during January, 2,000 products are produced. Okay, we produced 2,000 products. Now, what is our standard? It looks to me like our standard requires 3 direct labor hours a product. So our total standard hours would be 3 hours per product times the 2,000 products that we produced, that product times $16 an hour. Okay? Now that we've got all that data up on the board, let's figure out our variances. Okay, now it's really easy to figure out a variance. You don't even have to multiply all this out. All you have to do, and we're going to do the rate variance first, all you have to do is say, okay, you have 6,300 hours here and 6,300 hours there. Okay, so that's not changing. The only thing that's changing is the $15.60 and the $16. Okay, and that means there's a 40-cent difference. There's a 40 cents difference. So let's take the 40-cent difference and let's multiply it times 6,300. And let's see what we get. Okay, we get 2,520. Okay, so the difference between this tier and the middle tier is $2,520. Okay, now, question, is that favorable or is it unfavorable? Well, if I'm looking at this and analyzing this and I'm saying, look, this is a price or a rate variance, and I paid $15.60 per labor hour, and I initially budgeted $16 per labor hour. I actually paid less per labor hour than what I thought I was going to pay. And you know what? That's a good thing, okay? Because I paid 40 cents less a labor hour than what I should have paid. Okay, so that's a favorable variance, okay? 2520 favorable. Now, let's do the same thing between these 2 points. Let's look at our quantity or efficiency variance, and what we're measuring here are hours. Now, let's look over here, and it's the same thing is going on. If you look, you got 6,300 hours here, and you have 3 times 2,000, which is 6,000 standard hours, okay? And the $16 per hour doesn't change. So we can look here and we can say, okay, the change between the 6,300 hours and the 6,000 hours are 300 hours, okay? And the $16 stays the same, so we can just multiply the 300 hours times $16, and we're going to get $4,800, okay? So, 4,800. Is that favorable or is it unfavorable? Well, let's just analyze, okay? Our actual hours, we use 6,300 to do whatever we were doing. The standard that we said we should have used in the beginning of the year is only 6,000 hours, okay? So it looks to me that if you're using more than what you budgeted for in labor hours, that's an unfavorable variance. So in analyzing the whole direct labor variance, all you do is net both numbers. Okay, so you can take the 4,800 and subtract out the 2,520, and you should get, let's see, you should get 2,780, okay? That should be, if you look here, that should be an unfavorable 2580. Always, when you're netting, the larger amount is what is the favorable or unfavorable. Okay, in this case, the 4,800 unfavorable is a lot larger than the 2520 favorable. So what's left over is really what we call an unfavorable direct labor variance. Okay, now I know it's kind of a lot, but if you just set up the tier and you put the actual quantity times the actual price on the far left, in the middle you put the actual quantity times the standard price, and on the far right you put the standard quantity times the standard price. If you just set it up like that, all you have to do when you read these problems is to substitute the numbers, and you should be able to figure out your variances. And now don't forget, if we're talking labor, then it's actual hours times actual rate, actual hours times standard rate, and standard hours times standard rate. So, I always remembered it actual, standard, standard is the way I always remembered how to do this. And I like doing it this way versus the way they do it in the book, because this is much more visual. You can see this. And the variance, you just have to do this, practice those problems 3 or 4 times and it'll come right to you. The variance is a price or rate variance on the far left side, and on the far right side it's a quantity or efficiency, whatever you want to call it. Just remember, you're measuring price or rate here, and you're measuring quantity of hours or pounds, quantity of pounds you're measuring right on the right side. Okay, and you're always comparing it to the middle. Is how you're doing this, how you should do this. And I don't think on the test you're going to have to do this. I don't anticipate that. I think more on the test you're going to have to calculate the price variance or the quantity variance, just one or the others. Like I said, it's only going to be probably 2 problems from that list, and then 1 or 2 of those theoretical questions that I've included. Now, like I said, there's not a lot in chapter 23, but I wanted to cover it just to get you started for any accounting majors that are moving on. You will see a lot of this in cost accounting, but I just wanted to get you started with it, and I'm not going to test it real heavy. Like I said, 5% of all the questions on the test. Okay, I will be around. Your quiz should your midterm quiz should already be taken, both midterm quizzes to cover both the first and second exam. Your final exam, I believe, ends the night of December 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, December 2nd or December 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. But I will be available the whole week after we come back from Thanksgiving break. In fact, I'll even be available Thanksgiving week. I will be in Ohio, but you can still call me on your cell phone and ask me any questions I'll be glad to go over the problems on the phone with you and discuss anything. Feel free to call me. There are some students that have been coming to campus to see me, and I will make myself available very much after Thanksgiving all the way up to your final exam. Thank you very much, and this is the last of the summary videos. I wish all of you good luck on this final exam. Remember, you have to get 195 points, but that will include the 2 quizzes in Wiley Plus. So what you have is 3 exams and the 2 quizzes in Wiley Plus that have to get you the 195 points. And then any extra points that you get with the homework, I believe the homework is going to be worth 50 extra points. So any of those extra points that you get, you automatically will get all the points from the homework. Otherwise, if you don't get the 195 points, you can't qualify for the homework and you won't pass the course. Now, if anybody doesn't understand this, please give me a call on my cell phone and I'll explain it to you. Thank you very much.